Hello and welcome to the Patience to Prosperity podcast, where we learn how to act in opposition of our limiting beliefs in order to reach our fullest potential. Hey guys, it's Lizzie. Welcome back to the Patience to Prosperity podcast. I'm really excited about this episode because I've been wanting to talk about this concept that I'm going to dive into for some time now. I've always had a very weird relationship with social media. I've always engaged in social media culture as one does, especially at my age. But, I've gone through periods where I haven't had Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok for a year. And, I delete it every time it becomes sort of toxic to me. And I kind of just wanted to start off today's episode by explaining what that really has to do with the fear of being perceived to me, because I think social media is so imperative to talk about when going over this topic. Because for me, social media is something that I think can be used in a healthy way. And there are so many good things that do come out of social media. But when it feels like it's controlling you more than you are controlling your usage, that's when it becomes an issue, and that's when I resort to going cold turkey every single time and just deleting the apps completely, which makes me feel kind of even weirder when I go back on the apps and decide that I want to post, because I realize that it all kind of stems from this place of being afraid of being perceived by other people. You can post something on social media and you can tell yourself as many times as you want that it's for you. You are posting for you. We always hear people saying that, right? Maybe we even say that ourselves. But I would argue that you are never actually posting for you when you post on social media. As much as it's coming from a place of love, as much as it's coming from a place of comfort, whatever it might be for you, you're always posting for someone else. Because if it was for you, it would stay in your camera roll. You wouldn't have to post it on socials. So just the act of posting and having it be more for other people than it is for me, that act of inauthenticity really gets to me every single time I post, and it makes me feel like I'm sort of seeking outside validation more than I am just being complacent with myself. And I really don't like that feeling. I don't like relying on other people's external validation to feel good in my own skin, to feel good about myself. And I don't want everything I say right now to be me completely demonizing social media, but I do want to hop on here and talk about my experience with it, because it's not something that I do want to brush under the rug, especially since I'm kind of dipping my toe a little bit more in social media now that I do have a podcast. And it's been hard for me, I'm not going to lie, because, I have to put myself out there a lot more than I typically have in the past through my socials, and especially with the podcast, Instagram, and TikTok, I definitely post more vulnerable content on there. And that brings me to the reason why I do post on social media at the end of the day, is because I genuinely, at least for my podcast platforms, I really want to post content that connects with people and makes people feel seen. And I kind of had to let go of my fear of being perceived by the outside world in order to be able to reach those people. So I kind of had to ask myself, what's more important to me? My success and happiness and reaching the people that I want to reach and doing what I actually want to do with this platform, or shrinking myself to make others like me more, to make their perception of me something more digestible. And at the end of the day, you have to choose whatever is actually in your highest power and what's going to bring you to your highest frequency, rather than trying to take up the least amount of space in your life. Because for so long, I thought that I wasn't allowed to take up space. In whatever room I was in, I always felt like I couldn't stand out because I didn't want people to even acknowledge me, really. I didn't even want to make my presence known And now being in the social media spotlight, in order to actually reach the people you want to reach, you have to put yourself out there. You have to be vulnerable. You have to, lead with authenticity. And I honestly just think that the fact that every single person who follows you on social media is perceiving you in however way they want to, however way they do, regardless of how you are trying to be perceived, that's what's really scary. When you know that all of these eyes are perceiving you in a way that you cannot control. It's really scary. And this fear of being perceived is something that I think all of us go through, but no one really talks about. You kind of hear people hitting on the point of caring what other people think about you and trying to let go of that. But no one really talks about the idea that we all have different perceptions of every single human being in our life. And I think when we post on our social media platforms, it comes from a place where we are trying to be perceived a certain way. That's why we can post captions that go along with the pictures that we post. Or we can express ourselves through clothing, through angles, through hairstyles. Maybe it's more of a casual post or one that looks like it took more effort. Whatever it may be, every little thing, every little detail that goes into a social media post is being perceived in some way. And honestly, what I've had to tell myself in order to let go of that is that you have to realize every single person who inflicts any sort of judgment onto you about how you live your life is simply projecting their own insecurities onto you. And I know that we hear this a lot, and it's something that might just go right over your head when I say that. But genuinely, if you hold judgment towards other people in your heart, that is a sign that you need to do some inner work. That is a sign that you need to figure out where that's stemming from inside of you, because a person who is fully healed, a person who is fully accepting of themselves and actually loves themselves and has pure intentions does not inflict judgment onto other people. They don't walk past someone who's wearing an outfit that they wouldn't typically put on and inflict judgment onto them even inside of their own heads. That's just not something that goes through their head. So if you are someone who has a lot of judgment stemming inside of them, I really encourage you to do some inner work and to ask yourself some questions to get to the root of that. Or if you just have some friends who you've noticed are a little judgmental, it's really easy when you surround yourself with judgmental people to adopt their sort of judgy tendencies. And I've been around that behavior before, and it genuinely just made me feel like I was losing a sense of myself. The more and more that I poured my energy into those types of relationships, because that wasn't me at the end of the day. I'm not someone who wants to criticize and ridicule every single person around me for no reason, It doesn't make me feel good about myself. But that's why some people do it, because it's so deeply rooted in insecurities. And sometimes people inflict this judgment without any self-awareness even being intertwined in it. But you can't live your life with the thought in the back of your head that every single person around you is judging you in some way. Every single person around you is perceiving you in some way that you don't necessarily want to be perceived as. You have to show up as your most authentic self. Figure out what makes you feel like yourself the most. What sort of clothing articles make you feel the most like yourself? What sort of ways do you express yourself? For me, I know it's through music, it's through jewelry and clothing and yoga, and especially obviously sitting on the mic. What ways do you express yourself? What ways do you feel the most like yourself? And then lean into those areas more. Because the more authentic that you act, the more in alignment with your true self that you act in accordance of, the more you're going to be okay with being perceived by outside people. Because you know who you are. You're sure of yourself. So every single other perception of you doesn't really matter at the end of the day. You know who you are. it got to a point where this dream that's living inside of me right now, this fire that's burning inside of me right now that wants to come out, that I so badly want to put my energy into, it would hurt so much more to give up on that dream and that passion and that fire burning inside of me. It would hurt so much more to give up on that because of the fear of being perceived by others than it would to just put myself out there and be judged by some people. Because at the end of the day, the only people who are judging you are the ones who don't have the courage to put themselves out there like you do. When someone is already pursuing something that you feel inspired to do, you don't look at them with secondhand embarrassment. You're inspired by them. And then when you're pursuing the same thing, it's so easy for you to just cringe at yourself and tell yourself you're not good enough, or there are so many people that are better at it than you. Well, of course, you just started out. There are going to be people who are better than you always at things. But you're not even letting yourself see what you're capable of by just giving up on yourself at the very, very beginning. Of course, you're not going to be perfect at it. Of course, you're not. But that's kind of the beauty of everything. You learn through the process of things how to do them the most efficient way and in a way that can reach other people on the level you want to reach them, or whatever it may be in whatever passion you have inside of you that goes through your head when I say these things. So you cringe at yourself by starting out, mostly because you're thinking about all the people who don't have the courage to put themselves out there and that are just projecting their own insecurities onto you. And sometimes we actually project our own insecurities onto ourselves when pursuing something that we're passionate about because, like I said, we're not necessarily good at them yet. So that can make us feel insecure at times. It can make us have this imposter syndrome where we just feel like we're not good enough. And obviously comparison can come into that, and so many things are intertwined in it. But sometimes our own insecurities come into play, and when we are not self-aware that they are the driving force, they are what just took over the wheel and is driving our passion right now, when those insecurities creep in, sometimes we mask them as other people who are inflicting judgment onto us. But every single time that you think that you go through your daily life and you just walk past another person and in your mind you tell yourself, oh my God, they think that my outfit is so ugly right now. 9 times out of 10, it's because you actually are not comfortable in your own skin. You actually maybe are wearing an outfit that was out of your comfort zone today. So you're just making up these delusions in your head and choosing to believe that other people are inflicting judgment on you. You don't actually know what's going through that person's head. But we're so fast at just jumping to conclusions and assuming that other people are perceiving us a certain way when we are scared of being perceived a certain way. Sometimes it's just those unhealed versions of you trying to stop you from going outside of your comfort zone, from being the most authentic version of you, because you haven't been this version of you yet. So obviously it's scary. If you've been living your life trying to conform to society's expectations or stigmas or trends, whatever it may be, if you've been trying to fit in boxes your entire life, being yourself for the first time is going to be really fucking scary because you don't know who that is yet. You haven't met that person yet. You know glimpses and pieces of who he or she looks like, but you haven't fully embodied that person yet. And that can be scary at times. But that doesn't mean that other people are perceiving you in a way that is negative, in a way that is judgmental. And if they are probably just not okay with being themselves yet. So you being your most authentic self can be intimidating to them. Sometimes you actually aren't that embarrassed to do this thing that you're really passionate about that you want to pursue right now. You aren't actually cringing at yourself for trying something new and maybe being a little shaky in the beginning. You're creating fake perceptions of people perceiving you in a way that scares you, and then labeling yourself as cringy as a result of your own made up beliefs. This has to do with limiting beliefs. Like I say in the intro of every single episode, we work to act in opposition of our limiting beliefs. Because limiting beliefs are essentially just thoughts that we make up in our own heads that we choose to believe with no rational explanation. When we tell ourselves that we can't wear something, that we're not good enough to start something new. All of those things are limiting beliefs that are coming in because they stem from your ego. Your soul is telling you that you are being drawn to this thing right now, that you really want to pursue this thing and you're really passionate about it. That's your soul. Your ego is the thing that is making up all of these delusions. Your ego is the thing that is telling you that you're not good enough, that you don't have what it takes, because your ego is always trying to keep you safe. So all of the things that come into play that are new, that you haven't experienced yet, are going to be scary, and your ego is going to try to take over to stop you from going through with it because it's unfamiliar, which makes your mind think that it's unsafe and not right. But that's not the case. You just haven't done it yet. You haven't experienced it yet. Sometimes you have to detach from that ego and lean more into your soul, because that's where you're going to find ultimate fulfillment. When you act in accordance to what your soul, your spirit, your heart is telling you, that is when you will experience the most fulfillment in your life. Like I said before, the pain of letting this passion just die out inside of you is going to be so much more hurtful and so much harder to accept than the fleeting emotions that come with the fear of being perceived by the outside world. Because you're not always going to be scared of these judgments. You're going to eventually get to a place where when you put yourself out there enough, you're no longer thinking about how someone is perceiving you. Because the truth is, you're actually a different version of yourself to every single person in your life. You're a different version of you to your mom, to your brother, to your boyfriend, to your best friend. All of those people see you differently. But the thing that reigns true through all of those intimate relationships and connections with other people is that they all see you for you. If you are open enough with them to let them in. If you are vulnerable enough with them to show them the real sides of you, the challenging days, the challenging thoughts, all of the baggage that you think you have to carry on your shoulders, but actually is just a part of you that you need to learn to accept and to learn from in order to level the fuck up and get to your most authentic self. If you are vulnerable with these people, then they see you for who you are, even if they have a different perception of you from one another. So that's why I think it's so important to just lean into the parts of yourself that feel most true to you. Because then it doesn't really matter how other people perceive you. They at least still understand you to an extent. And that's where I feel as though the social media stuff kind of connects here, is that we all yearn to be understood by other people. We want to be understood so badly by others. But the truth is, you were put here to understand yourself, not to be understood. You were not put here to be understood by every single person that you walk by past the street. You were not put here to even be understood by people in your life that you may have thought should understand you better, like a parent, like a sibling. Sometimes they're not going to understand you as much because they don't actually understand themselves. So when someone doesn't actually understand themselves, you can't expect them to reach you with the same level of understanding that you are yearning for. So once you make your intentions clear that you are just trying to find yourself deeper in this life, then every other perception of you, every other misinterpretation of your character is not going to affect you as deeply. But the times where I have reacted to situations where I feel like I would have gone about it differently now, is because I felt like the way that someone else perceived me was a misinterpretation of my character. And since they perceived me in a way that I knew wasn't me, it made me act in ways that I wouldn't act today as I'm in more of an authentic version of me. I heard this quote on a Jay Shetty podcast, and he said, "I am who you think I am." So it basically means that our perception of how we think others may see us is exactly how we see ourselves. It's a mirror reflection every single time that we have a thought that is inclining us to believe that someone is perceiving us in a certain way. Every single time we have that thought, it is clearly made up because someone else didn't outwardly say that they see us this way, which means that it is our own belief. It is how we see ourselves. It is a mirror reflection of the insecurities that we have deeply rooted inside of us. And how we see ourselves has everything to do with how other people see us. Because if you see yourself as someone who is just genuinely not comfortable in their own skin, then you give off that energy to other people. You look insecure, you look scared, you look like you're not okay with being in the body that you were born in. People can sense confidence. People will take notice to when you are acting in your highest self, to when you are embodying the most authentic version of yourself. And that's when you'll actually get comments from people about how they perceive you, is when you are acting in accordance to yourself. I've gotten the most compliments about the way I express myself through music and art and clothing and jewelry. All of those things I get the most compliments on because it is the most authentic way that I express myself. And I also want to add that you can absolutely perceive something without fully understanding it. But we can't understand something without perceiving it. I'm going to say that again. We can perceive something without fully understanding it, but we can't understand something without perceiving it. You perceive everything in your life. You have a perception of absolutely every single thing that your eyes have seen in your life. But that doesn't mean that you necessarily are trying to understand everything. And sometimes your perception has a lot to do with your past and the situations or the people that you have been shown in your past. So for example, if you're someone who has been cheated on before or has been really wronged in romantic relationships, then you might perceive love as something that's foreign, something that you are not worthy of, that is just not in the cards for you, and that every single person is going to mistreat you and not treat your heart with the gentle love that it needs. This is when we need to separate our experiences from our current realities. And it can be hard to decipher what is real from what we are actually perceiving to be real. But that's why open-mindedness is the best quality a person can possibly carry, because when you are open-minded, you are open to a situation unfolding in any way that it is going to unfold, whether you perceive it as good or bad when it unfolds. Because you know deep down that it is for your highest power, that every single experience that happens in your life is for a reason, and it is all there to teach you a lesson to bring you closer to yourself. Because like I said, we're here to understand ourselves, not to be understood. So sometimes just asking yourself, is this just a made up story in my mind that I'm telling myself and choosing to believe? Is it a limiting belief? Or is it something that is actually tangible, in my face, real, someone said something to me, etc. So going back to the beginning where I was talking about social media, I have about 25 episodes out now, and the podcast was something that was honestly so hard for me to start because of my fear of being perceived by other people. Not just because I was scared of putting my most authentic self out there to be perceived, but also because I just didn't want to be perceived by people at all. And I haven't even posted my podcast on my main Instagram for that reason. I just honestly have completely detached from all of the people from my past that are now just, mutual followers on social media. And it's been hard for me to want to just put myself out there in a way where they are free to perceive me in any way that they want to. And I just have to accept that whatever way they do is the person that I am in their eyes. But since I'm at a point now where I know who I am, I don't actually care if people perceive me in a way where they are judging me for starting a podcast, or they listen to this episode today and they're picking everything I say apart and degrading me. I don't care, because at the end of the day, I have a podcast. And I went through with a passion that I felt deeply inside of my heart that I needed to do. And I'm getting way more fulfillment out of going through with that passion rather than letting them win and shrinking myself more. Because even if you shrink yourself and you try to put yourself in this box where you think that it is safe and everyone's going to perceive you exactly how you want to be perceived, no matter what, there are still people out there that are going to inflict judgment on you, that are going to perceive you in a way that you don't want to be perceived. So you might as well just do that thing anyways. You might as well. Don't let them win. Maybe it's time to finally choose love over fear. Maybe it's time to love yourself over the idea of others loving you. Because at the end of the day, all the outside love that you can get can sometimes be fleeting. But the love that you have for yourself is something that you can always find deeper. You can always love yourself deeper and deeper. You can always step into more authentic versions of yourself. So why obsess over everyone else's view of you, rather than taking the time now to actually find out who that person is? Because sometimes we get so caught up in how other people perceive us that we actually don't even know who we are. And that's something that's so uncomfortable to face when you don't actually know who you are, and simultaneously you have to deal with the perceptions of others. Because now you have absolutely no idea what you're even putting off into the world. And that can just cause you to completely spiral. But you're holding yourself back from all the abundance that is waiting for you on the other side of the door by taking up as little space as possible and by letting this passion burn out inside of you. There's so much on the other side of that door. You just have to open it and step into your power. Take your power back. Reinvent yourself. You can reinvent yourself as many times as you want to. You do not have to stick with the version of yourself that you know right now, or that has worked for you for some time but is now feeling less and less like you. That's something that I really enjoyed about coming to college, was that I felt like it was a fresh slate for me. I could completely detach with whoever I thought I was in high school, and I could reinvent myself to be a person that I truly loved, that I truly wanted to be, that I truly liked. Because I don't even know that high school me was a version of myself that I really liked to begin with. I think I was just too scared to really be myself because I didn't even know who that was, and I was too afraid to be perceived by other people while trying to find who I was at the same time. So if that's what you're currently experiencing right now, I really, really hope that this episode helped you. I hope you know that you have everything in your power to reach even your wildest dreams, your biggest goals. You have everything right at your fingertips, and it's completely up to you to take advantage of all of the opportunities around you, all of the goodness around you, all of the people that you haven't met yet, all of the experiences that you have been too afraid to put yourself through. All of those things are right at your fingertips, and it's up to you to choose self-love over fear. It's up to you to choose yourself over the judgments of other people. Nothing that you ever do will be fully accepted, fully embraced, and encouraged by every single person around you. There are going to be people who have deep insecurities that are going to make you feel like you're doing too much or that you don't have what it takes. Those people are hiding behind shells of themselves. They don't even know who they are. If you were standing in a crowd of people, not every single person is going to clap for you. Not every single person is going to like what you're saying or like who you are based on how they're perceiving you. And that's okay. You have to learn to be okay with it because you are okay with yourself, because you have accepted yourself. That's honestly the key to not spiraling out of control from the thought of being perceived by other people. It's all about self-love. It really is. You put yourself out there. You do all the things. You keep working to become better at this craft because you love yourself, because it's an act of self-love. Even if you don't love yourself right now, but you are trying your best to pursue this thing, it is an act of self-love every single time you act in opposition of a limiting belief that is trying to keep you from reaching the goal that you have set out for yourself right now. It is an act of self-love every single time you push past your comfort zone and you do it anyways. So prove to yourself that you have what it takes by pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and exposing yourself to more experiences, because the more you expose yourself to the things that are really uncomfortable and fearful right now, the more familiar they're going to be to you, and the easier it is over time to keep doing that thing, to keep pouring your energy into it. And then you just reach a place where it becomes so authentic and so natural to you that you don't even have to think twice about it. And I know that you're capable of reaching that place, and I really hope that today's episode helped you. So that's all that I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you liked this episode, please share it to a friend or someone you think could benefit from it, because it really just helps me reach like-minded people just like you. If you feel inclined to it, maybe leave a review on the podcast. It really just helps me take into consideration what kinds of concepts you guys like hearing about and what you want to hear more of. Follow the show to be notified when I upload episodes every single Monday. And follow me on Instagram and TikTok. They'll both be linked in the show notes below. If you are looking for some content that takes you away from all of the emotionally charged content that is constantly fed to us through social media, I really try to do my best to make my platforms a place that feels safe to you, that you can go to when you have spiraling thoughts, that you feel like you are seen every single time you open my page. And know that my DMs are always open if you want to chat about anything. But I'm done yapping for today. I really enjoyed talking to you guys today, and I hope you tune in next Monday for another really exciting podcast in season 4 of the Patience to Prosperity podcast. This is the season of the dragonfly, and it just makes perfect sense that I put this episode in here, because the dragonfly has so much to do with transformation and stepping into your most authentic self and really becoming who you were put here to be, and detaching from all of the ideas and thoughts that told you you had to be someone else. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening, and as always, come as you are and leave a little more healed.